up, my fellow techies? I'm your host, Dannielle Johnson, aka the Dannielle Jay, and this is Donuts, Coffee, and Tech on KBLA Talk 1580. From algorithm anxiety to social media success stories, I'm serving up digital strategy with all stuff, no fluff, baby. This is where complicated digital strategy talk feels more like a conversation with friends. Coming up on today's show, beyond the trends and likes, branding in the age of AI, we are catching up with Chism. It literally just came out. Chism! I'm like, yeah, no. Chism. And he's going to give us some insight as to his brand, the things that he's doing with ChYld Creative, and we're also going to dive into the chaos of trying to figure out this tech-driven life. We're talking about iOS 26 and the lawsuit that has YouTube shook right now, Meta's newest settlement, and so much more. Let's get ready to break free and make some major moves. All that and more coming up, but in the meantime, grab your coffee, bite that donut, and let's grind through the coffee break. Okay, so first things first, there's a lawsuit happening right now because a YouTuber got all of the updates on iOS 26, which has not been released yet, accurate. He's down to the T, which means that he got some insider information. This is like insider trade of tech, right? How do you know this, sir? How is it that you were able to give us the bar for bar, word for word breakdown of iOS 26 and we haven't even put that out to the public, right? Unfortunately, he's being sued by Apple because they're like, hey, you obviously had access to things you weren't supposed to have access to. And I talked about it a little bit on the show before, but I used to be an ethical hacker. So it's quite possible that he got a cease and desist when he was doing what he was doing to get the information, and or he did like some social engineering so that he can get this information. Either way, Apple is ticked off and they're like, you're gonna pay for this. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep you all abreast of that because I feel like this is one of those few stories that we're not going to see too much on, just because people don't really think about YouTubers in the same way that they do like big corporations. So it will be remiss to see how much coverage happens with this. Normally it's, oh, this person got sued, that's it. I want to know the nitty gritty. What happened? How did he get the information? How did Apple find out? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens without these big companies knowing. How did they find out? Of course, he put a YouTube video out, so that's Exhibit A in the case. When you go to trial and they're like, okay, look at the table. What is it? It's a video of him telling on himself. But I'm really interested to see what are some key things that come out of this. And also, what does this mean for people who are doing like the pre-releases of any iOS or any update? Are you beholden to not talk about it, right? Because I do a lot of the updates where they're like, oh, do you want to be like a tester, a beta tester for said update? Does that mean that as a beta tester I can get in trouble if I talk about it on the internet? Because the internet is one of the places where I share things like that, you know what I'm saying, like how-tos and whatever. All right, moving on. Meta investors are settled a $8 billion lawsuit over Facebook privacy violations. And my only question is, where do I get my check? Because I know I'm a part of the people that was a part of this privacy violation. No, but the thing about this is, we talked about the trial here on the show where Facebook was being scrutinized for different privacy violations. Here we go. Here's the result. $8 billion. That's, I'm sorry, for a company that swears up and down that is not doing anything sketchy with your privacy, $8 billion is a lot of money to pay for you to be like, oh, no, we're still good. No. So what I want to see come from this, the questions that I want to see come up from this whole privacy violation, I don't know what we're going to call this, a Facebook privacy gate. Everything has a gate at the end of it, right? Is what are we doing as consumers to hold companies like Meta responsible and accountable for making sure that our privacy is a priority, right? Like those are the things that I want to see come up, because at this point, obviously, if you raise the concern, you sue them, they have enough money to just say, here's some money. We don't necessarily have to do too many more changes, right? Or the changes that we do can be just enough so that we are underneath the radar again and just do whatever the heck we want to do. It's hard when someone owns so many different facets of a business and nobody can come in and do the checks and balances on said business. So like Meta, for example, they are the advertising company, right? They are the data manufacturer. They are the social media site. They are all the things. So basically, if we're thinking about like brick and mortar terms, imagine owning the billboard company that prints the billboards, owning the billboard itself, then owning the land, then owning like the rights to whatever's on the thing. It's a lot of stuff going on in-house, and I think that privacy should be one of the first things that we hold these big companies accountable for, because there's so much risk involved with our personal information, and it just feels every time someone gets under fire, they're going to be able to just write it off with a $8 billion check. Meta's going to make that back in 2 weeks, fam. They're not so worried. It's like their next paycheck. Like, you know what? One advertiser got us about $1 billion. All we need is, what, 7 more? We're fine. We're fine. So it's a scary space to be in. And those are over-exaggerations, of course. I haven't run the numbers to know how much Meta makes in a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But you get my gist. We're living in a time where we have to understand that currency isn't what it used to be. It's not just gold or resources of that nature, money. It's your privacy. It's your data. It's your brand. It's the things that people can take, misconstrue, or use for their financial gain. And if we don't hold these companies accountable for the way that they're treating our privacy, what what are we opening the gates to if we're not willing to do those things? Okay, so one of the last stories that I wanted to talk to you all about, and this is super serious, super important, is that ICE is getting unprecedented access to Medicaid data. A new agreement gives ICE direct access to a federal database containing sensitive medical data on tens of millions of Americans, with the goal of locating immigrants. Now, I read this article, and it was very scary because the new goal is to it aims to deport 3,000 people per day. 3,000. Who are these people, fam? 3,000? That number is so crazy. 3,000 a day. By the end of the year, who's going to be left? Because they're not just going to get immigrants. That's not the whole makeup of the United States. And people have immigrated like 50, 60 years ago. Are they still in this as far as like the being deemed an immigrant that's worthy of deportation? Like, it's the craziest thing ever. So much stuff is happening with this, and I try not to report on it because it makes me so mad, and I really don't want to start cursing on air. Like, I don't want to get fired from my job, so I try not to talk about this on air, but I talk about it a lot on my social media platforms, just how bonkers reality is right now. And if you are out there and you're listening and you're like, I don't know what to do, I need you to go subscribe to the groups who are organizing and doing the due diligence so that they can share resources and information and ways to protect people that you care about, and even folks that you don't know, against these crazy situations. And it just screams that I don't know, it's given so many different things. And when you read books growing up, you don't think that some of these things aren't real, but then you start living in 2025 and it's just like, what are we talking about, fam? That's something that's about to happen. I don't have the exact date on that, but follow me on social media at the Dannielle Jay to stay connected with a lot of these conversations that we have here, and we'll keep navigating these conversations moving forward. But more Donuts, Coffee, and Tech when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. And we're in the future, forward first, and you're listening to Donuts, Coffee, and Tech on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host, Dannielle Jay, a.k.a. Dannielle Johnson. Do you have a digital win that you wanted to share with us this week? Dial 1-800-920-1580 to join the conversation. Listen, you are just in time for our special guest in studio. I am so excited to talk to Aaron about everything that he has going on, from Inner Child Creative to the tech journey to community and how important these things are, what he has going on. He's phenomenal in all these different ways. I've stalked him on TikTok for the whole week, just trying to get to understand him better and his whole ethos. I'm just really excited to have you in studio. Everyone welcome Aaron Chism. Yay!
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. So tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself. Like, how did you get into technology?
Yeah.
Do you have these super major hitters on your past resume, and then now you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I'll start. I grew up in South Central LA.
Woo.
Born and raised. Grew up in Watson and moved closer on King and Normandy, so right down the street. Yeah, and just a kid from South Central, never been out the state, but I decided to go to a small school in Atlanta called Morehouse in 2011. It is a small school, maybe not small in like notoriety, but it is a small school in general. But I went there with no idea. It was the first one of my family to go to a four-year college. And I decided to major in biology for whatever reason.
Wow.
Actually, I do know the reason. It was because I loved Grey's Anatomy
Oh,
in high school. That was my favorite TV show, and I'm like, okay, I want to do that. I had no idea, and then being in the community, they're like, you either be a doctor, lawyer, or something of that nature. So I go to Morehouse, I'm biology pre-med. No business being a bio pre-med major. It wasn't really my strong suit. I was just thinking I had to do it. I didn't realize that until my third year there.
Oh, wow.
And I had already done a couple internships. I did an internship at the CDC, and I did an internship right here at California Hospital downtown, actually the hospital I was born at.
Wow.
And I'm just like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
But I'm already a senior at this point. I got to finish through.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not telling my family I'm taking 2-3 years extra to graduate because I want to change my major at this point. I finished through, I graduated with my biology degree, but I had to come back and figure it out. And when I came back, moved back home with my mom, and I had to start from scratch.
Yeah.
I got a job. First job out of college was at Albertsons on Crenshaw.
Oh, wow.
Right down the street. And that was an ego hit for me, just spending 4 years at a 4-year college and having to come back. And my first job is at the grocery store bagging groceries.
It will humble you, won't it?
No, it was a humbling experience, but I think I needed that experience. I was working 3 jobs at that time. I was doing Albertsons. I worked at my elementary school in Watts, Watts Learning Center Elementary School, and I was a teacher's assistant there. I was also driving Lyft and Uber, just doing it all,
hustling.
really trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I was reading a lot of books, and I found out like the best avenue to do is sales.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, let me just get into sales. And so I got into recruiting sales, recruiting engineers, but then also try to place them at companies. So I was a headhunter in a sense.
Okay.
Did that for a year, and then I'm like, I don't like this. Went internal at a company doing recruiting. So at that point, I'm recruiting HR professionals. I'm recruiting corporate lawyers, all kind of things at a company called Internet Brands. And after I left there, I went to Snapchat. That was like, I would say, my first big boy job, quote unquote. There, I was able to recruit Android and iOS engineers at Snap, pulling them from all the big companies.
You might know who leaked the iOS 26 is what you're telling us, right?
Hey, I probably met him at some point, honestly, for real. But, so I was recruiting Android and iOS engineers. I did that for a year, and I'm like, okay, I think I got my recruiting fix. And the beauty about recruiting, I'll tell this to the listeners, is that when I didn't know what to do, recruiting actually saved me in a sense because I was able to recruit for so many different positions.
Right.
And I understood, I'm like, okay, I have to know what a lawyer is doing. I know what this partnerships person is doing. Or I know what sales are doing because I have to be able to recruit for it. And that really gave me an understanding of what I wanted to do.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, I want to get into this partnership stuff. Like, I'm good with talking with people. Let me transition into partnerships. And I reached out to somebody on LinkedIn, got an interview directly with the manager at DoorDash in 2019.
Wow.
For partnerships role, helping restaurants in LA grow on strategy,
That's
even
dope.
outside of LA. And I was lucky enough because I started there in 2019. Then the company in 2020 becomes the biggest company on the face of this planet.
Like, who could have even imagined that would have been the trajectory for DoorDash? You know what I mean? Because before it was just like a luxury. It was like, oh,
Yes.
if you use DoorDash, you might be a little bougie because why can't you go get your food? And then the pandemic shuts us all down, and that's the only way that we're
It's a necessity.
getting. That's so interesting.
Yeah, and
timing is great.
Great. And I was so thankful for that experience. I'm like, okay, I started 2019, 2020, that hits, and I learned so much in those 2 years of being in the pandemic, or a year and a half while I was there, working with these restaurants and really learning empathy, because having to deal with these small restaurant owners in some cases, and even bigger chains who are franchise owned, and they're on the face of like their business is closing down if they don't get enough money through this avenue of DoorDash, and us having to be on the forefront of that and help those restaurants figure out strategies and different things of that nature was a mind-opening and just career-changing experience for me. And then I was able to witness the IPO there. I was there at DoorDash when they went from being a private company to an IPO company, and that was a great experience. And just being on the journey for that and just seeing the people that had been there for years experience this big win in their life, and it was just like a good time to be there.
Can I just interrupt you real fast and say, I love that how at the beginning of your journey, you're on one side of history trying to figure it out. And by the time we hit 2021, 22, you're on the right side of history where things are happening and moving and momentum and all this. That makes me so happy for you. I'm sorry. I just had to let you know this.
I appreciate that.
That's so amazing. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
It's okay. Yeah. I forgot to mention, even during my time recruiting, I always had this love for entertainment.
Okay.
I'm in high school. I would call myself a high school rapper. If you look at my yearbook, everybody, my high school senior year yearbook, everybody in the comments of my yearbook when they wrote different messages are like, I can't wait to see you on TV. You're going to be this big rapper, like all this. It was just like a thing where everybody in my high school just knew I was going to be like the next Kendrick Lamar.
That's interesting.
Right. And when I get to college, I'm like, all right, I'm not a rapper anymore. I'm a poet. I transitioned there into...
And college is the best place for that to happen because spoken word literally integrates with us when we go to college. I don't know what it is. I feel like everybody that I know and myself got integrated into spoken word at some point in college. College really does that. I don't know. The energy there is so creative. And then there's community and all that fun stuff. And then it's not too bad to have something to do on a Tuesday night because that's when the open mics would be like Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. But yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah, and so I wanted to figure out a way that I can get back into the entertainment industry because even at my times doing at Snapchat and recruiting, I was moonlighting in the music management space. So I was like managing local artists here in LA, all that good stuff. And I'm like, okay, how do I merge this world of tech? After I wanted to leave DoorDash, I'm like, okay, it's time to make a transition. I get that feeling internally.
Yes.
And although things are good, I think those are the times sometimes when it's best to make a decision.
Yes.
It's not when you're like down and out. It's like when things are feeling good and you can really assess what's going on. So I never left the job on bad terms. It's always been a time where things were going good and I had to make a decision. So I was reaching that point at DoorDash and I'm like, okay, how do I merge this world of entertainment, tech, and partnerships? And then I come across this little company called TikTok in 2021.
Oh, yeah. Look at the timing on this, too.
And I transitioned there, and it was like the perfect time. And I was able to work with all the top content creators during that time. I had a roster of about 50 to 150 creators at a given time over the course of 4 years that I was there. And across all types of content platforms like food creators like Keith Lee. I worked with beauty creators, all these types of creators and helping them with their content strategy on how to grow on TikTok, helping them with going to events with them and being their point of contact for anything that went wrong on TikTok. They had a person to come to on the platform side. So I spent about 4 years there. And in February, I decided to leave while things were going good and make a transition to starting my own company, ChYld Creative.
Wow. Look at this timeline. And the timing of it is so beautiful. I love it. I think part of it is this decision that you made to see it through in college was like the best decision that you could have made because the timing of it would mess up everything. If you didn't do that one thing, this domino effect wouldn't happen the way that it happened because you would still be in school, not necessarily available to take these other opportunities as they came up. Wow.
Yeah. And even now, like the timing, I haven't seen the reason to why I left TikTok early in this February, but I think it'll play out the same because I've been lucky enough to be guided by the intuition over the last 10 years of my life.
Yeah.
And even though when it gets hard to see everything, I'm like, I've always made the right decision over the last 10 years of my life, and everything has always worked out. So we're just waiting to see now.
And so then when we have you back as a guest and you start telling us about all these like huge partnerships and all this other stuff that's happening, that's going to be really exciting.
Yes.
I'm like so invested in your story because it gives a lot of people hope. Like the people that are listening right now who may be in that period where they're trying to figure out like what's next or how will I pivot? Is it a good time to pivot? They're hearing your story and they're getting that encouragement of, oh, wait, I don't have to wait until it gets horrible for me to leave a place, or I don't have to ask permission in that way to move on from this thing that isn't quite serving me anymore. So thank you for sharing your story.
Of course.
That's phenomenal. So we're running a little tight on time before we get to our commercial break. However, what I want to ask you before we get into paying the bills is, in being an entrepreneur, have you seen any big change between where you're at now as an entrepreneur and where you were at as a recruiter / salesperson? as far as, is it the same amount of energy that you're giving to a thing, or is it more energy that you're giving towards this project and your brand and things of that sort, or like, how does it balance out?
I would say it's more energy, but it's also different energy.
Yeah.
It's a different type of energy. I go to sleep thinking about my company, and I wake up thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it's a different feeling. It's a good feeling more than anything.
Yeah.
So I think I like this type of energy, and I want to keep going. And I always say I wish I had done it sooner, but I was so thankful for those opportunities because that's led the way to my relationships now and building the foundation of my company.
And also with all of your like on the job experience.
Yeah.
It really does translate into at least the structural part. I found like when I became an entrepreneur, it was just like I had all of this practice with structure, project management.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like you've done recruiting, so you know how to hire the people for your team.
Right.
Like you have all this on-job experience that now can translate into your entrepreneurial journey. So we're going to keep talking about this when we come forward. More Donuts, Coffee, and Tech on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot more to talk about. Welcome forward, fam. You're listening to Donuts, Coffee, and Tech on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host, Dannielle Jay, guiding you through the latest in social media mindset and monetization. Dial 1-800-920-1580 to keep the conversation going. And now it's time for Tech Tapped In. But we still have an in-guest studio, so we're going to talk in more detail about some things that we were talking about but on our break, which is so funny because that whole conversation should have been recorded. Technically it is, but the listeners need to hear that part of the conversation because I know for a fact I get messages almost every single day that's asking how to crack these algorithms, how to get these brand partnerships, how do I make money online, and I'm a dinosaur in this area. That's me being really frank about it. I was cutting brand deals with people back in 2008, 9, and 10. YouTube only. We wasn't even doing Instagram and all that yet. I had 1,500 followers, was making way more money than the people who had millions of followers. But it was different.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was different is because the rules were different. You've worked at Snapchat. You've worked at TikTok. You've been on the side of mystery that most people don't know about.
Yeah. It's still a mystery even if you don't have the side, honestly.
It's like we don't be knowing all the things, but you know a lot. And with your current company that you're built, you're using a lot of what you learned from your previous employment to help creators.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what this looks like.
Yeah, so ChYld Creative, I would like to say the reason why I started was to help creators realize the power that they have within.
Yes.
And the power that they have within is the inner child.
Yeah.
It's living that dream, that curious kid when you was 10, 9 years old, wanted to live out, and just like doing it for that person and living through that version of you that had no fears, had this creative spunk, and just ready to just take on the world. So really helping creatives tap into the power within that way is the purpose of why I created this collective and company. And so ChYld Creative on one end is a creator collective. We have about 80 creators right now, ranging from as 10K followers all the way up to the millions across all different sizes and niches. We have some in the lifestyle space, the food space, the travel, entertainment space, whatever the case may be. And so with this collective, two goals is education and then also monetization. On the education side, it's really helping creators understand how to build their platform. For example, we had Snapchat come in about 2 weeks ago to do a virtual session with the creators in the collective on how to grow on Snap, how to grow their content, how to monetize on Snap, and whatever the case may be. We're going to be doing the same thing with all the other platforms like TikTok, Substack, Patreon, all these other platforms really coming in to educate the creators on how to grow, have brands come in to educate creators on what they're looking for when they're looking to tap into content creators for their paid campaigns, and also having creators understand the idea of building them as a business. So our next conversation with the collective will be an entertainment lawyer coming in to speak on how to read your own contracts if you don't have a lawyer or a manager or whatever the case may be, how to redline your agreements, what to look for in these things, what not to include, what to include. So really just helping these creatives understand how to build their brand as a business. And then secondly, the monetization aspect of things. When a brand comes to ChYld Creative and say, hey, we're looking to work with XYZ influencer or whatever the case may be, this type, and And the beauty about what I'm doing is most brand agencies have to go and try to find them at that point.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, now we're scrambling to service for this client. But the beauty about the company that I'm building is that I already have the collective for them to be able to tap into. And so we will be able to connect the brands to the collective and make sure that they're getting paid, but then also helping them with their education and building them as a full-time business.
That is
my goal.
Incredible. Way back when I was streaming, I was like, oh, we should do something similar to this idea. And the one thing that I heard about ideas recently is that if you don't act on an idea, guess what? It's going to get sprinkled in somebody else's brain, and they're going to run and take off with it.
Thank you.
I want to...
I got that from Big Magic. I read that book recently, and they were talking about that exact same thing.
Yeah, that's on my list of books, too, because when I heard the quote about ideas being transferred that way, somebody had actually recommended Big Magic. So I'm going to have to look at that book now next. But what I was going to say is I love that you are building the community first. We talked about it on the show many times where it's like community is the most important aspect of this whole thing because without community, you really do run yourself into a wall. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. That's really it. So the fact that you're building this community up and then these opportunities when they come in, it's, oh, no, we already have the community.
Yep.
We already have somebody that does that. I think that's a really powerful positioning that you're giving folks. And just that in and of itself, just being a part of this collective, I hope that it rubs off on these people so that they can go forth and create their own communities and collectives. And not necessarily, not the same, but like they do something similar within their own communities so that they can pay it forward to the folks that are a part of like their niche or industry or whatever. Give the listeners a little insight into what works on social media from your perspective and things you've seen work for people in your collective.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, especially on platforms like TikTok, IG Reels now, it is important to be consistent. And I know that's the first thing that content creator suggests is like, you got to be consistent. But that is the reality of it. I've worked with a lot of top influencers and content creators, and I've seen that they may not always be consistent now, but the initial start of where they were able to build their content and platform to be was because of their consistency, right?
For sure.
It's being consistent in the face of seeing low views. I think that's the biggest thing. I've seen a lot of people get those 200 views or 1,000 views or 2,000 views and just, all right, I'm taking a break, I'm backing up. But the beauty about interest-based media now, like a TikTok and like a IG Reels, is that it only takes one.
Yeah.
And so your consistency is just you shooting shots in the gym, essentially. Like you're just shooting a bunch of shots. And it may not hit 1 month in, it may not hit 2 months in.
Yeah.
But all you need is one video to literally change the course of what you're doing and the course of your content creation journey. So I would say consistency in the face, not just consistency, but consistency in the face of low views and low performance is, I think, the key to real success on social media. But then also being authentic to something that you naturally do and naturally are good at. Trying to build a fabricated sense of content, but live your life and let your life be the content.
Oh.
And that's like the biggest thing that I've seen work for top content creators.
Absolutely. And to go back to your point about like in the face of these low views, we've been conditioned as content creators to look at the numbers and to judge ourselves based off of our best piece of content. So it gets hard when you're trying to go up against yourself in a piece of content that did extremely well versus this one that you just posted that's not getting that much love. I always think of, so I like anime.
Okay.
And
I'm starting to get into it a little bit.
Are you?
A little bit.
Okay, so Full Metal Alchemist is the best anime ever. Second, Attack on Titan. Third, Inuyasha. But we'll talk about that later. I know, Kamal, don't do me like that. We'll talk about it after the show.
I started with Death Note.
Oh, so good.
It's heavy, though.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's very heavy. But, okay, so in anime, you have these core episodes that push the storyline, right? And then you have these filler episodes that give us a sense of the world, right? When I think about content creation, I think of it in that same sense, where it's like you have your core pieces of content, and sometimes that could be a series that you're doing, right? Like I'm doing a ChatGPT series right now where I asked ChatGPT to make me a media mogul in 60 days.
Wow. I love it.
Insane.
Imagine when it happens.
Oh, yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, no.
Look where you're sitting. No, but that's the core pieces of content that's pushing the story along. And then in between, you have the behind the scenes of coming to the radio show, the 40-hour week of working, all the different ancillary things like the tech conferences that I go to or the social networking things. All that stuff is like the filler episodes of my anime, the anime of Dannielle is built out that way.
Yeah.
And then what I'm trying to do is once the ChatGPT challenge is over, we got to refresh it with a new season, right? Season 2 of Dannielle. What is that core piece of story that we're pushing along? And then we'll add the same type of filler. We'll have different characters in there and integrate it in a different way. What is your thoughts? Or what is your thoughts? Wow, my grandma would have my head. What are your thoughts about cornerstone content, and is it something that is good for a content creator to have doing series versus doing like a bunch of behind the scenes? Is there a difference between those pieces of content, or does it not matter at all and you just need to put it all out?
Yeah, my thoughts is I'm playing. my thoughts are, I think it depends on the platform, right? TikTok, for example, I would say that cornerstone piece of content is important.
Yeah.
Having that consistency. And the reason why cornerstone content on a platform like TikTok is important is because when you find when your For You page finds a particular type of content, you want to keep getting serviced that content, right?
Yeah.
When we're scrolling, all I see is sports stuff for a given time because that's all I engage with.
Yeah.
Now, say you're doing a content series about ChatGPT, your content is going to be fed to those people who are always getting content around ChatGPT. Right. So you hyper serving that audience will generate more views and more engagement because they're going to be seeing your stuff on a daily or weekly basis, right? However, for content like a place like Snapchat, I would say that's where you can be a little bit more randomized. Or you're in your stories doing more of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Or if you're behind the paywall like a Patreon, I think doing something there where you're showing more of the BTS of what your cornerstone content is, right? Where Snapchat is really, it doesn't matter the cornerstone piece because it is random. So I think it really depends on the platform. And if you have your cornerstone pieces elsewhere, then have a behind-the-scenes platform that you're going to, and they will all merge together, and you'll be generating revenue and streams and all that good stuff from different platforms instead of just one.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean?
Don't put all your eggs in one basket, as they say. Look, okay, so I want to hear about your wins out there, your lessons, and what we should investigate next on the show. It can be the numbers, how effective a piece of tech is, or even social media comparisons. Call in at 1-800-920-1580 or tap in with me on social media at the Dannielle Jay. More donuts, coffee, and tech when we come forward on the unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. Welcome forward, fam. You're listening to Donuts, Coffee, and Tech on KBLA Talk 1580, and I'm your host, Dannielle Jay. You are still tuned in, tapped in, and turned on to the latest in technology, and we are doing it big with Aaron Chism in the studio, and man, has he been dropping gems. If you are late to the show, man, shame on you. But we have the replay playing tomorrow at 2 p.m. for anybody who didn't catch it live. And I post the replay of it on YouTube. That's been a little slow, but it'll be out like next week sometime. I don't have a hard date yet. But anyway, thank you so much for being in studio. Absolutely love having you here. Is there anything that you feel like you didn't quite cover that you want to cover in this moment with our listeners? Because we talked about a lot. We went over some really good strategy, some ideas, the different aspects that you're approaching with the collective and with Inner Child Creative. We also went through your background, which I feel like is really powerful for people who are trying to get into technology or trying to pivot. Is there anything else that we missed out?
I think we covered everything. Now, when you laid it out like that, I didn't realize we actually covered all that in the last however long we've been talking.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Isn't it?
But I think just reiterating on pivoting, I think is the big thing, especially for the tech professionals out there that are looking to pivot. I think it's important to understand that you can pivot and that the way to do it is not only by applying to jobs or whatever the case may be. It's sometimes getting in the DMs of your favorite companies on LinkedIn and just setting up calls and all that good stuff, because I was able to do that at the companies I worked for, and just going where you're curious, right? If you're curious about something, just go forward with that. And then I guess I'll talk a little bit more about the collective in regards to just if you're a content creator out there, if you're an influencer and you want to be a part of a community of creators, definitely please join. And we're definitely giving some education around how to grow as a creator, but then also monetization opportunities. So I think the biggest thing is just keep going and don't be afraid to pivot, even if you want to do content creation as a professional. I think there's a big arena for that, where a lot of LinkedIn creators are actually have working jobs and they're making money from posting content on LinkedIn. So if you're a professional and you want to build your brand in that way, you can do it all. It's out there for the taking.
Absolutely. So how would one become a part of the collective?
You can follow me on IG, ChYld Creative, INNERCHYLD Creative, and then there you go to the website and there's an application for you to join. You fill that out. And then the beauty about the collective is that everybody that's in the collective has to be vetted through an interview process.
Oh, nice.
And so the community of creators that are in it, you know that they all have the same ethos, the same feeling of community. They all want similar things, and we're a diverse collective as well. So
nice.
90% of the people within the collective are Black and brown, and that is just a natural thing because I'm a Black man, and I think we are definitely leaning on the diversity aspect. So if you fit within that category and you want to be involved, then that's the way to do it.
All right, my name might pop up on y'all's list.
Please do. I think you should definitely be there. You might be the poster child.
Oh, that'd be super dope.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, y'all, Dannielle actually was the class of 2025. And I was like, I love that. And I think it's really important to emphasize like the education piece that you all are providing here, because there's just so much noise on the internet. And I know not only for myself, but from the people who look at my content, one of the biggest comments that I get is, I'm so glad that you broke this down like this because everybody else is selling something. I have a lot of how-to videos. I don't sell anything at the end of it. I'm not telling anybody to get one-on-one time with me or anything like that. It's really for the love of education and wanting people to have the right information so they can go forth and be great.
Exactly. And the collective is free. I forgot to mention that. Like, it's free to be a part of it. It's a non-exclusive collective. So you can be in my collective and have a manager. You can be in my collective and be a part of another collective. Yeah. Because I'm not charging the creators that are involved.
I'll go ahead and charge for y'all to hear this on the radio right now, though. You look at your Venmo right now. It's being charged. No, I'm just like, no, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. That's amazing. And that's even better because now you're taking away like any type of gatekeeper from this information. I love that. And the fact that you're vetting people so you can make sure that they're actually really a good aligned fit for this opportunity. And it does better for everybody who's involved in it because everybody's taking it seriously. Yeah. I've been a part of situations, child. It's wild because you could tell right off the bat like who's there to be like a culture vulture to the group. And not necessarily like one group versus another, but just the entirety of the group. And it's if y'all would have vetted this before they got here, you would have caught that this was not a good fit for this person. Right. So I really respect and appreciate that. Listen, y'all, make sure that you're following Aaron on everything. Inner Child with a Y, which I was like, oh, yeah, I like that because it makes it easier to find.
And you got to remember your why. That's why I did it.
Oh, I love that.
Why you started.
Why did you start? I love that. And then do you have any events or anything coming up that the public can attend, or is there anything else that you want to promote?
Yeah, no events right now. We just did something with Snapchat at their headquarters, but the next one will be a virtual session with an entertainment lawyer to come in and talk to the creators in the collective about how to read your own contracts, how to, if you don't have a manager, if you don't have a lawyer, how to be that lawyer for yourself. Meantime, I think that'll be exciting for people who are interested in joining the collective before then.
Heck yeah. Oh, yay. That's awesome. Yes. Make sure that you follow Aaron on everything. Keep up with this man because he's doing major things, and I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you.
For you to be able to take uncertainty and make it into something so certain that's making such a huge stride, and it's going to make such a huge impact on these people that are involved in it. If anybody else hasn't told you, I'm going to tell you, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
So, listen, this has been an incredible fire episode of Donuts, Coffee, and Tech that you don't want to sleep on. From outrage to opportunity, algorithms to outreach. Today's show was your reminder that tech is powerful, but what we do with it matters. Here is what went down. We had an Apple lawsuit that actually folks are just so in awe that there was a leak in iOS 26. Meta settled over Facebook privacy violations. And again, I ask, where's my check? Because I know for $8 billion, I'm in there somewhere. Y'all can cut me a $20 check.
It might give you $1, though.
But you know what? I've gotten checks for $100, $200, $300 from these type of like settlements. So yeah, if I find out information on how to be a part of that settlement, I'm going to share it here. And it's going to be on my social media. We had conversations with Aaron Chism of ChYld Creative. We talked about all these great things, and we had good old conversation and vibes. Make sure you do not change that dial. Your dose of entertainment news with Jill Monroe is up next. This has been Dannielle Jay, your social media plug, transforming your strategy and mindset into digital success. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Be safe, be good. Love you all. Peace.